Event. We are on to the next presentation, Teach Civics and Improve Your Knowledge in the Constitution, presented to us today by Maria Gallo. Maria brings her experiences as a former teacher and administrator to her program development at the Center for Civic Education. She's responsible for developing numerous ongoing civic development programs, including the Citizens Not Spectators voting curriculum, the annual American Civic Educator Teacher Awards, and the Training of Trainers Institute. Prior to her current work, she served as the National Director of the School Violence Prevention Program, managing a cross-country network of program sites that provided civics education as a deterrent for school violence and offered professional development opportunities in civic education for teachers. Thank you, Maria, for presenting today, and very much looking forward to hearing what you have to share with everyone.
Thank you very much, Tori. I really appreciate that a great deal. My colleague, Mark Gage, will also be helping. I want to thank everyone for participating, and Mark will, at the end, help with the chat. Well, actually, he'll be helping with the chat all throughout. But, you know, if we have any questions at all, please feel free to ask them. Because of COVID-19, I did try to hide every gray hair I had. I don't think I was very successful, so I apologize, but I will do the best I can. So let me begin with sharing the screen. Hold on a second. For some reason, there we go. Okay, so as Tori was kind enough to say, I'm from the Center for Civic Education, and I hope that you will participate in all of our materials because we have plenty of online materials. But we are in today's conference going to talk specifically about two particular programs or two particular courses that we are going to be offering, or that actually exists online for you today. Basically, we do two things at the Center for Civic Education. We create curriculum material, which we have been doing for over 50 years, and we provide professional development for anyone who's willing to participate. And that professional development, by the way, not only happens on a national level when we have the money to be able to do it, but it also happens within the individual 50 states. And I think that it is important that you realize that we do have a network of state coordinators in our 50 states who help provide professional development for us at all times. We currently have three foundational or really cornerstone programs. Foundations of Democracy, which is our K-12 program. We the People, the Citizen, and the Constitution, which has been going on for about 30-something years, 32, 33 years. It is on the upper elementary, middle school, and high school level, and Project Citizen, which also happens to be our program for students that are in upper elementary, starting with the 4th grade, up to the 2nd year of college. But I'll be very honest with you, we have had younger people, 1st and 2nd graders and 3rd graders, who have actually done wonderful Project Citizen projects for us. We also are currently ending the James Madison Legacy Project, which was a research project, and from which the material that I'm going to share with you today comes from. We also have the American History and Civics Academies, which we got a grant from the Department of Education to complete. And we also have a Project Citizen research program, which is also a research program from the Department of Education. So why do we do it? Well, okay, so I'm going to try to just move this a little bit so that you could see this better. Foster a recent commitment to the fundamental values and principles of the U.S. Constitution. The reality is that we, whether we want to believe it or not, try very hard to have a democracy, whether it's a representative democracy or a direct democracy. We are trying to have a democracy in this country. And there are some fundamental values and principles of constitutional democracy that we would like everyone to actually foster a reasoned commitment to. And we want to promote competent and responsible participation in political life. I think the key words here are responsible participation as well as competent. And in order to do that, you need to have knowledge, intellectual skills, participatory skills, and you need to have certain dispositions. And by that, we do refer to traits of character such as your ability to function within a society, as well as a commitment to the democratic values and principles upon which our country was built. Obviously, the James Madison Legacy Project, which we lovingly refer to as the JMLP back at home, it was a research project, and Dr. Diana Owen and her team from Georgetown University did do a study. It was a 3-year program for which we got funding from the from the federal government. In order to do that, the Department of Education did fund us for this project. And basically, we were trying to determine if videos could work as well in professional development and encouraging teachers and students, and more importantly than anybody else, students, in their ability to learn about the US Constitution and the way they can practice within the US democracy. And so in doing so, we asked Dr. Owen to participate, and she and her team found that students of teachers who completed the James Madison Legacy Project professional development reported that their sense of civic responsibility increased as a result of taking part in a We the People class. I think that that is a very, very important aspect of what we do. Having kids say that they have the real sense of civic responsibility means a lot. Now, we're in our last year of no-cost extension. How can the James Madison Legacy Project continue to benefit other people? Well, I think that it can. And one of the ways it's going to do that is through our civics and government platform. It happens to include a self-guided tutorial courses, which is what this is going to basically talk about, what we're going to talk about today. It also has a teacher forum and a resource center, which anyone who logs on can get to. And so you can see, I'm going to move myself again, that the open course there are 4 elements to our learn.civiced.org platform, which was created by and through the Department of Education. The 4 elements, of course, are listed below. It's open courses, instructor-led courses, the civics forum, and of course, our resources. The reality is we're going to spend most of our time this afternoon on open courses, but I want you to recognize that we do have resources available to all of our teachers, which we continually put up. So I want you to spend some time there if you can. The address, learn.civiced.org, will be repeated again at the end so that you will have the opportunity. Now, in talking about this, what are our courses elements basically? They are the same for almost all of our courses. We're going to interview scholars, people who are either attorneys, actual law professors, judges, who have an expertise in the field in which they are talking about. We have true or false questions that are really designed to check for learning and for understanding at the end of each segment of our courses, as well as the discussion questions, which we'll get an opportunity to take a look at. The first course is the We the People, the Citizen and the Constitution course. It's known as the We the People Open course. And even though we are suggesting 6 weeks to complete this material, please know and recognize that is a self-guided tutorial. So if you need more time, less time, whatever you want to put into this is absolutely fine. We suggest the length, but it is totally up to you. And since many of you are teachers, I would think that you might want to not only deepen your own understanding and knowledge of the We the People in the We the People open course, but you might actually provide your students with the opportunity to do this, because again, it's free of charge. It is based on the We the People curriculum. You will notice that Unit 1 is listed here for you, but every one of the units has a small text introduction so that you understand what you're about to deal with. You will also find that the individual lessons are broken down into segments and sections so that you really only need to have small chunks to be able to go through this. You will see that there is a video. There are review questions. And then there are, in this particular instance, in this particular segment, there happens to be 6 questions for discussion, which you can use with your students. I would highly recommend that in doing this, the check for understanding questions and the video could be done as a simple flipped instruction with your students. I would ask them to perhaps look at a particular video, which most of the videos, the segments are about 5 to 8 minutes in length. So you might want to actually ask your students to take a look at them, and at the same time have the opportunity to ask them to do the true and false questions. Now you will notice that because this is being done a little differently, this presentation, I've actually included the questions and the answers here. The reality is that it's not until you submit that the answers are provided for you. In doing so, I want you to understand that if the answer is true, as the first one is here, that's all you'll get. But if the answer is false, as the second one shows, as the second question shows, the reality is that statement is we're going to give you the correct answer. So if it's false and a person shows that as false, we explain why it's false, and rather than just send you back. Now you have the ability to send a student back if you would like to, but you don't necessarily need to. Now, there happen to be discussion questions. I want you to go through these questions in your own head for about a minute, and you can see that they're very simple questions, but for the first unit and the first lesson, they're going to be very, very specific. They don't really ask, you either know the answer or you don't know the answer. And I specifically chose these for a reason, because all of our material is spiraled and the content is as important in the beginning as it is in the end. And so you will get an opportunity by looking at questions for, I'm going to remove this. You will get an opportunity to see that the discussion questions that are part of Unit 5 are a little bit more complex. They are much more difficult because by the time you get to Unit 5, a student, as well as a person who is trying to deepen their knowledge, has the ability to deal with these questions and to deal with issues on a much broader spectrum. You're here going to be explaining your position rather than simply answering yes or no. And in explaining your position, I think it is extremely important that a person has the opportunity to not just say, I think, but why do you believe that it is the way it is? Does the tax exempt status given to religious group violate the principle of separation of church and state? You might think the answer to that is yes, but why? What do you base your answer on? What background can you give? And at this point, you can actually not only, if you're doing this with your students, I would recommend highly not just doing this with what was being dealt with in that particular segment of that lesson. But I would also ask students to look at other areas in order to be able to get information, such as their text, such as Supreme Court cases, etc. So I think that all of that could work. So it gives you the opportunity to see what the content actually is. You will notice that it is a very, very fundamental basic course. It does teach you as well as your students, and it'll help you teach your students about what, not only what the historical and philosophical foundations of the American Constitution is, but how it has evolved to today, and how, in essence, we as individuals are going to be responsible for what happens today. So all of this is online, of course, and here is our second grouping. It is known as Strengthening Democracy in America. It is a series of 10 courses. We do not have just one course in this particular instance. We have several. The idea here is to focus on the strength of our democracy, as well as different aspects which could be considered weaknesses. Now, because not everyone considers the same thing as strength as a weakness, we want students to take a look at, as well as teachers and any adult that you know, to take a look at our political system and determine what they view as strengths and what they view as weaknesses, and what can be done to strengthen something that's working very well, or more importantly, to fix something that they perceive as a weakness. Now, again, we're saying 1 week per course, but the reality is it's really up to you as an individual as to how long you're going to take. As I said, we are going to have 10 courses. These 10 courses, we actually already have 4 up, and the 5th one is going to be up by probably the end of next month. The user manual has 10 issue papers, as well as an explanation of how to use or how to do project-based learning, or how to use project-based learning tools with our students, if that is something we're looking to do. Part 1 of the SDA courses actually gives you some fundamental knowledge about the system itself. So course 1 tends to be very, very fundamental. Course 2 also. And then if you take a look, you will notice that course 3 and 4 and the rest of them actually deal very, very with some specific issues about the strengths and the weaknesses. So if you take a quick look, you will notice that course 1 deals very specifically with what the framers had in mind when they created the Constitution. It's a very fundamental kind of course. It gives you the background ideas of what actually went into it. So I would think that as a fundamental course, you might want to take aspects of this along with aspects of the We the People open course to work with your students. At the same time, you take a look at course 3 and the rest of them. Here you begin to see the actual individual strengths and weaknesses of the political system. If you look at this, you will notice that we already have issue briefs for the for video, well, course, I should have written course 2 to 5. I do apologize for that. They are the issue briefs that we have put up. We intend, because it's going to go up at the end of June, course 5, I should say. I would hope that the issue briefs will also be up by the end of June. We're looking to be able to, right now they're written at a very, very high level. We are looking at ways in which to bring the individual pieces to, or the issue briefs, to middle school level or high school level students that maybe their reading level is not quite what we would anticipate it being. But I think it is important for you to have the opportunity to see some of the issue briefs that we have actually created for this. We are developing the rest of them. Again, they are going to be course 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 will be up by the end of the year. You certainly have the first 5 courses. The first 4 are already up. The course 5 will be up by the end of next month, if I'm not mistaken. Mark will correct me on that if I'm wrong. And then the rest will be up before the end of the year. If you come back to our session, you'll have the opportunity to see that. But I just wanted to give you a quick idea of what they would look like. The only one we don't know for sure, both the scholar and the interviewer for the 10th one, which has not been filmed yet. Although we have the background information for it, we do not necessarily have the interviewer and the scholar already in place. Everything else has been basically filmed, and so there it's now with our editor in order to be able to determine the best way to show it. Let me just give you our website in the event that you would like. The websites our civiced.org website, which is the main website of the Center for Civic Education, happens to have loads of materials that are free of charge for teachers. And so we would expect, or we would ask, that you would take a look at all of the materials possible. Yes, you could buy things, but before you purchase anything, you might want to take a look at the things that we have for free for teachers, especially in this very, very difficult environment. And then, of course, you have the learn.civiced.org, which is the platform that was created by the James Madison Legacy Project, which we've talked about, which provides us with the open courses that you could go to directly. So, are there any questions? And I think I probably need to go back to Mark. Mark,
Maria,
did you?
Yeah.
Yes.
There are a few questions about professional development. And so the way that works is we normally will, once you complete a unit, and as Maria mentioned, the We the People open course is divided into 6 units. Once you complete a unit, you would just send me an email and I would generate a PDF for you. That's how that would work. But I would encourage everyone, if you're interested in this option, just email me and I'll send you some information about that.
Yes, one of the things I didn't spend a lot of time on was talking about that second section, which is the teachers, an instructor-led course, mostly because we haven't completed that. We do have various coordinators who are using it, and it is for a paid course for college credit. We're also using it as a way in which to work the various sites for our academies projects, as well as we're going to be doing things for PCRP. But we would recommend that you participate in this, and that if all we can do is provide you with certificates of completion, and then it's up to you and your district as to whether or not they accept that certificate, and if you have just about what it is. I'm sorry, Mark, you have other questions that you want to answer?
I was just, so we have a page that I put a link to. It's civiced.org/coronavirus. It's for our, it's our distance learning resources, which are available during this period. In fact, all of them except the We the People enhanced ebook through Actively Learn are available for free all the time. The We the People enhanced ebook is available until July 31st. Both the middle school and high school levels are available through July 31st to everyone for free, including your students. So I encourage you to check out that. That's the most recent link I just put in the chat. And that is it. That's all I've got, except one thing. Make sure to check out 60-Second Civics. I just have to put in that plug.
I think it's very important that they check out 60-Second Civics. It's available through our website, and it is free, and it is something that many of our teachers use. And I think it would be absolutely wonderful for additional teachers to participate and students to participate in.
All right. Thank you, Maria. That's all I have.
Okay. Anybody else? Well then, Tori, I'm not sure what to do because we went through this rather quickly, but I don't necessarily want to, I'm thinking that it's the end of the day for many people on the East Coast, and they probably do not want to deal with this anymore. So I turn it back to you.
Wonderful, Maria and Mark. Thank you so much. That was absolutely wonderful. There are a few things that I wanted to touch on and ask for people to put some information in the chat because I've been seeing some really good ideas. And I want to be able to share them back with EdMets. I've been seeing requests for a day like this on geography, a day like this on world history, and I don't know if people want Euro as well. So it would be great if you guys could put suggestions for future conferences in the chat. You don't have to do it right now, but before you sign off for the day. And I wanted to give you a quick update on our election results and our active elections. And the Biden vice presidential choice, we now have a three-way tie between Stacey Abrams, Elizabeth Warren, and Amy Klobuchar. So if you haven't had a chance to vote, please go do so. And if you signed in late, we're working like the Dickens in the background to get you rostered. And so that will keep going as well. And if you would like to submit your prediction map for the outcome of the US presidential election, we'll keep that in mind. And then if you like, we will tweet you out as the most accurate predictor of the outcome of the election on a state-by-state basis when we get to the end of the presidential election cycle. We're going to take, oh, I see additional economics. That would be great. Geography, ancient history, world history, some of my favorites. In fact, I took Latin all the way through the end of college. Probably the only person that could translate the Tapestry at Bayeux on the fly when I was walking by it. Federalism would be great. Awesome. And more US history, anything to get your kids more engaged. So if there are specific disciplines within or domains within US history, that would be great. I'm seeing suggestions on World War I, Great Depression, World War II. There are some things I think at the end of US history that sometimes run out of when we run out of runway with the Gulf War in sort of post-Vietnam timeframe. Civil rights, great. Census and how it came about, also really important given this is a census year. American imperialism, also great. Money. I think the economic system would be a great part of that and tying it back into economics. Colonialism, wonderful. Overthrow of Hawaii would be a great story to tell. Proxy wars, all part of the Cold War, right? I think that sort of the decline of the world, the shift in the post-Cold World War era is something that we need to really help students understand today. And we are going to have 3 more speakers after this. So if you would like to take a longer break now, maybe stretch your legs, get a little something to eat if you're on the East Coast. And then we have Larry Pasca from the National Council of Social Studies wrapping things up tonight. Oh, Native American history, really great ad. We actually have a project coming up that we're going to be doing with the Oneida Nation and one of our local research institutes. So stay tuned for that. We'll give you more information when that comes out.
Tori, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Somebody asked me if there was professional development credit or how they could get PD for attending today's sessions. So because you probably covered that early on and I missed it, I really can't answer that question properly. So if you could, I would appreciate it.
Happy to answer that. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a push of information at the end of the day, and Megan can correct me if I'm wrong, but then we're going to go back out to people who request certificates for PD. And I'm not quite sure what the mechanism is because it's tied to Eventbrite, which is just not my favorite platform, but I will have her clarify the exact mechanism for that. We're going to be posting the presentations and the webinars online. There will be a dedicated page to these, and then you'll be able to request the certificate for professional development. Oh, I see Louisiana Purchase. Perfect. The other thing that I wanted to mention before you all take a break is that in our Voices for Suffrage application, we have 3 guided tours. One of them is in development and it's on diversity in the suffrage movement. And we're always looking for people to review our materials before they go live. So if you would like to review the videos and interactives that we're designing to touch on the impact of the diversity in the suffrage movement, we would love to have your classroom feedback or your professional feedback. And we have 2 more components of the game to go. So please let me know if you are interested in participating in any of that. I know that Maria, there's a question in here about the Native American languages. Yep, there's lots available in Native languages. And oh, great, Lisa, I would love to have you as a reviewer. We'd also just love your feedback on both Election Edge and Voices for Suffrage. They were designed with all of you in mind and with many of you. So we will reach out as soon as this conference is over. So with that, I'm going to give you all a little bit of time back. We'll be back online right at 5 o'clock to welcome our next speaker, and have a great little break, everyone. And Maria and Mark, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation and all the work that you're doing to support education. Take care.